Republican Congressman Mike Turner of Ohio, he's joining us to discuss more of this. He's a member of the House Armed Services Committee. Congressman, it's great to see you. Thanks so much for coming in. Want to just get your take on what Secretary Kerry says right there. I mean, he says an unthought out action by somebody who's been in the United States Senate for some 60 days. He's talking about Senator Cotton, but he also seems to be obviously condemning all Republicans who've signed on to this letter. What do you think?
Well, I think this is really a critical issue. When we look to the fact that Iran represents a threat to our national security, everyone agrees that Iran should not be permitted to get a nuclear weapon. How do we get there? How do we ensure the safety of our country while they pursue a nuclear weapon is of great importance. At the same time, they've been pursuing missile technology, ICBM technology, that would reach the United States. That's not even part of the negotiations. But beyond the criticism of the letter itself, I think the substance of the letter is very important. And that is the issue that the president has been subject to bipartisan criticism, and that he has said any deal that he reaches with Iran, he does not intend to take to the United States Senate, which, of course, in the Constitution, the president doesn't have the ability to bind our nation unless he takes a deal with another nation to the Senate for confirmation. Now, he announced he was going to do that when even the Democrats were in control of the Senate. So there's bipartisan criticism of the path that the president's currently on.
There's also bipartisan criticism at this point of that letter itself. Senator John McCain, who was one of the signees of this letter, he said probably should have had more discussion about it given the blowback that there is. You kind of skirted around the issue, Congressman, but do you think this letter has now damaged whatever negotiations are going on? Would you have signed it?
Well, I think it, well, you know, I'm not in the Senate, so thank you for having asked that. But the issue that I think is important here is that this letter says, and, you know, that the negotiations themselves should raise the point that it is only binding with respect to this administration. If Obama wants to be bound to this, he certainly can conduct his administration to it. But the moment this administration's gone, the agreement no longer stands. Now, the venue in which that issue was raised is certainly subject to criticism, but the point itself is certainly valid and should be part of our debate in this country about the president undertaking negotiations that only bind his administration rather than pursuing long-term security for our country and trying to ensure that Iran does not get a nuclear weapon.
But kind of the platform of how this came about is part of the discussion here. The negotiations are ongoing. The White House says that and the State Department again even said today that this letter is hurting those negotiations. It is basically trying to stop any negotiations from happening. And so the platform this is all happening on is important. Do you think that they were wrong to write the letter?
Well, I think the issue is not wrong to be brought up, and I think the administration needs to answer it. I mean, they are attacking the senators and criticizing them for the venue in which they've done it. But the substance of the issue remains, and the administration needs to respond to that. They are undertaking negotiations that only bind their administration, that pretend to be a long-term deal. I think the administration needs to raise this issue. Certainly it should have been part of the negotiations and discussion with the Iranians that this is a short-term deal, not a long-term deal with the United States, only binds the Obama administration. That's an important topic. No, I also think that the administration should be subject to that bipartisan criticism that if they're going to do negotiations with a foreign nation, they should follow the Constitution. That means it has to go to the Senate. The reason why they're bypassing the Senate is because they don't believe the deal would pass through the Senate with confirmation, and I think that certainly hurts their overall negotiation strategy.
Congressman, given where it stands right now, simple yes or no question, would you just walk away with no deal?
Well, I'm not party to the negotiations themselves. I think certainly that Secretary of State Kerry has in his heart certainly the important aspect of protecting our nation. But I think of what may be in this deal, that this deal may be more dangerous for our nation than having no deal. But I think that this administration needs to be dedicated to Iran should have no path to get to a nuclear weapon, or our national security is gravely at risk.
Congressman Mike Turner, it's always